The galaxy's heart was a city of light. They called it Solara Station, a place so vast that entire Earth cities could float inside it without touching the edges. Its towers rose like silver mountains. The air shimmered with colors from banners of 100 alien civilizations. Every street and hall was alive with voices, deep rumbles, high musical tones, strange clicking speech that made human ears twitch. It was the day of the Great Conclave. For centuries, the galaxy's great powers had met here to speak, to argue, to threaten one another from behind polite smiles. This time was different. This time, for the first time in history, humanity had been invited. Most aliens saw the invitation as a mistake. Humans were newcomers to the stars, loud, stubborn, unpredictable. They had no long history among the stars, no ancient bloodline stretching back millions of years. To the elder races, humanity was a child stumbling into an adult's court. Captain Elara Morgan knew this. She also knew that every pair of alien eyes she passed was watching her, judging her. Some with curiosity, others with contempt. She walked through the main hall with her small delegation, 2 aides from Earth's diplomatic corps, and 1 Marine guard in a formal dress uniform. Elara wore a dark blue suit, the color of Earth's. Oceans with the silver crest of the United Terran Federation on her chest. She kept her chin high, her pace steady, as if she belonged here. Inside, she was not so sure. The conclave hall was an ocean of voices. The air seemed alive with scents she couldn't name. Bitter smoke, sweet metallic tang, a faint smell like rain on stone. Great crystal pillars rose to a ceiling so high that drifting clouds formed near the lights. Rows of alien delegates filled the amphitheater-like chamber. Some sat on high platforms, their bodies coiled or folded in ways no human could match. Others stood in groups, tall and thin, with skin like living glass or fur that shimmered in shades of gold. And then there were the Visar. The Visar Dominion were among the oldest and most powerful civilizations here. They stood apart, tall. Figures armored in silver-black plates that seemed grown from their own skin. Their faces were hidden behind ridged masks that left only their deep, glowing eyes visible. Elara had read their files. The Visar were warriors and diplomats both, feared in war, respected in peace. They rarely smiled. They never bowed. One of them stood near the center dais, scanning the room like a predator watching a herd. His armor gleamed like liquid metal under the hall's lights. His posture was perfect, unmoving, as if he was carved from stone. And then it happened. As Elara's gaze drifted across the crowd. His eyes met hers. It was not a casual glance. It was a direct, searching look, sharp enough to feel like it cut through the space between them. For a moment, the noise of the hall faded. The scents, the lights, the motion all fell away. There was only the dark, molten gold gaze of that alien figure and the strange stillness that wrapped around them both. Elara didn't know why her heart skipped. She didn't know why she couldn't look away. The Visar tilted his head slightly, as if acknowledging something. Not her presence, but her existence. Then the moment broke. The sound of 1,000 alien voices crashed back into her ears. Someone behind her cleared their throat. She kept walking. High above, in a private gallery, 2 alien observers noticed. "The exchange. Did you see that?" hissed a Koran trader, its many eyes narrowing. "I saw nothing," replied his companion, a thin, insectal creature. But its mandibles clicked softly, a sound of thought. "Still, perhaps the humans are more dangerous than we guessed." Back on the main floor, Elara took her seat at Earth's small table, set near the outer ring of the conclave chamber. From here, she could see the massive central dais where the speaker of the conclave would soon address them all. The other delegates didn't hide their stares. A being with skin like flowing water leaned toward a neighbor and whispered, its liquid form rippling with laughter. A cluster of avian diplomats tilted their crested heads, watching her as though she were a curious animal in a cage. She ignored them, Her aide, Lieutenant Harris, leaned closer. "Ma'am, they're going to eat you alive in here." Ilara gave the faintest smile. "Then let's make sure they choke on the first bite." The great chamber lights dimmed. A deep tone rolled through the air, not sound exactly, but vibration, felt in the chest. The conclave was about to begin. At the center, the speaker, a towering, multi-limbed alien draped in flowing white, raised its voice. "Today," it said in the common trade tongue, "we welcome a new voice to our circle. A voice from a world once thought too distant to matter. From the third planet of a small yellow star, the humans of Terra." A murmur swept the chamber, some polite applause, some cold silence. Ilara stood, her every movement measured. She delivered her prepared greeting, her voice calm, her words chosen to be strong but not aggressive. She spoke of peace, of cooperation, of humanity's willingness to learn. She did not mention the wars Earth had already fought among the stars. She did not speak of the pirates they had hunted, or the colony worlds they had defended. That part of humanity's story was not for today. When she finished, the applause was minimal. A few alien delegates tapped their claws or hands in polite acknowledgement. Others simply turned away, except the Visor, the same warrior who had met her. Gaze earlier was watching her still. He had not moved, but she could feel the weight of his attention. Far above, in a hidden observation room, a group of shadowed figures whispered. "The humans were not invited for peace," one said. "No," another replied. "They were invited to be measured, and if they are found wanting, then they will be removed." Later, during a recess, Ilara walked alone through one of the station's long corridors. The walls were glass, showing the endless starfield outside. Ships drifted like glowing insects between docking spires. Footsteps echoed behind her. She turned. It was the Visor. He stopped a few paces away. Up close, he was taller than she expected, his armor etched with faint, almost organic patterns. His voice, when it came, was deep and smooth, like stone over water. "You are not what I expected, human." Ilara studied him. "Neither are you." He inclined his head slightly. "My name is Koresh, remember it. We may speak again, soon." Without another word, he walked past her, his steps silent on the polished floor. Ilara watched him go. Her mind racing. She didn't know what game was being played here. But she knew this much. She was already in it. And somewhere deep in the shadows of Solaris Station, a silent figure adjusted the targeting scope of a weapon and whispered into a comlink. "The Terran has made contact with the Visor. Move up the timetable." The night side of Solaris Station was never truly dark. Far below its silver towers, the deep levels glowed with neon signs and drifting clouds of mist. Merchant ships glided between docking bays, their lights blinking in slow patterns. In the market districts, thousands of stalls stayed open through the station's artificial night, selling anything from starship parts to live creatures in shimmering cages. But beyond the noise and color, in corridors where the lights flickered and shadows clung to the walls, different business was being done. Here, the air smelled of machine, oil and rust. The floor plating was uneven, scarred by old weapon fire. Few people walked here unless they had a reason, and the reasons were rarely legal. In one of these forgotten corridors, a narrow door slid open. A small, insectal alien stepped out, its thin frame wrapped in a dull brown cloak. It looked both ways, its antennae twitching, before moving quickly toward a dimly lit chamber. Inside, 5 figures waited. None sat. They stood in a loose circle, speaking in hushed tones. "The humans should not be here," one said, its voice a low growl. "They are a threat to the balance." "They are nothing," another replied, a tall bird-like being with pale feathers. "A young race playing at diplomacy." The insectal newcomer hissed softly. "Do not underestimate them. Their speed of growth is unnatural." If they gain allies here, it will be too late to contain them. Silence settled for a moment. Then a fourth voice, low, cold, spoke from the shadows. The Terran captain has already drawn the attention of Koresh of the Visor. That is troubling. The group shifted uncomfortably. The Visor were respected, but their motives were unpredictable. If one of them decided to support the humans, the conspiracy would become harder to hide. Then we must act before the treaty is signed, the cold voice said. Disrupt the proceedings, destroy their credibility. If that fails, remove them. Up in the bright upper levels of Solaris Station, Captain Alara Morgan stood before a wall of transparent crystal, looking out over the city's endless lights. Her aide, Lieutenant Harris, joined her, holding a datapad. Message came through the secure channel, ma'am. No sender ID, encrypted. Alara frowned. Read it. Harris hesitated, then spoke the short message. They will not let you leave alive. Trust no one. The words hung in the air. Illyra's reflection in the crystal wall looked calm, but her mind was already running through possibilities. Was it a bluff? A scare tactic? Or was there truly a plot against humanity's presence here? She turned to Harris. Trace it? Already tried. Whoever sent it knows their way around the station's systems. I can't even find what terminal it came from. Alara took a slow breath. She had been in dangerous places before. Pirate ambushes, frontier battles, political traps on colony worlds. But Solaris Station was different. Here, the danger wasn't open. It was hidden in smiles, in quiet corners, in unseen hands moving pieces on a board she couldn't see. Meanwhile, far from the human quarters, Koresh of the Visor walked through a private corridor reserved for high-ranking delegates. His stride was measured, his expression unreadable beneath his armored mask. Two younger Visor warriors approached and bowed slightly. Lord Koresh, one said. There are rumors. Koresh stopped. Speak. They say some in the Conclave are displeased with the human presence. That actions are being planned. Koresh's gaze sharpened. By whom? The young warrior hesitated. Names are not spoken. Only that the humans have made enemies before making friends. Koresh dismissed them with a nod. But as he continued on, his mind worked quickly. The humans were strangers to the galaxy's web of politics. Alone, they could be crushed easily. Yet something in him resisted that thought. Perhaps it was the way the Terran captain had stood her ground in the chamber, or the way her eyes had met his without flinching. Either way, Koresh decided to watch. And if needed, to act. Later that evening, the Conclave hosted a formal reception in the Grand Spire Hall, a massive chamber filled with crystal columns and soft golden light. Floating drones carried trays of drinks in strange colors. Music drifted from an unseen source, changing subtly as it passed different clusters of delegates. Alara moved carefully among the crowd, exchanging polite greetings, listening more than she spoke. She could feel the undercurrent, the sidelong glances, the whispered comments just out of hearing range. She had been in rooms like this before. On Earth, in certain political gatherings, the most dangerous people were never the loudest. The same rules seemed to apply here. Halfway through the evening, she felt it again, the weight of someone's eyes on her. She turned. Koresh was standing at the far side of the hall, speaking with two delegates from a crystalline species. His gaze met hers briefly, then returned to his conversation. Was he watching her? Or simply observing everyone? Before she could decide, Harris stepped up beside her. Ma'am, one of the catering drones just malfunctioned in the serving line. Spilled a drink on a Lauren delegate. They're saying it's a security breach. Keep an eye on it, Alara said. But her instincts told her it was something more, a test of the station's security. Maybe even a distraction. In another part of the station, the conspirators met again. This time their voices were sharper, more urgent. The timetable must change, said the cold voice from before. The humans are making quiet allies. If we wait, the treaty will bind them into our circle. One of the others shifted uneasily. What of the Visor? They will not interfere, unless given a reason. And if they are given one? The cold voice was silent for a moment. Then we remove them too. Hours later, Alara returned to her quarters. The room was small but secure, with a private cum station and a clear view of the docking bay. She sat at her desk, reviewing the day's notes, when her cum unit beeped out an anonymous video message played. It showed a grainy image of her delegation table in the conclave chamber. A red targeting circle glowed over her seat. Then the screen went black. At that same moment, Koresh stood in his own quarters, removing pieces of his armor. His cum unit buzzed with a message from an old contact in the station's underdeck. It contained only 5 words. They mean to kill her. Koresh stared at the words, then at his own reflection in the dark window. The Visor were not in the habit of saving strangers. But sometimes, instinct spoke louder than tradition. By the time Solara Station's artificial dawn began to glow across the towers, 2 separate hunts had begun, one human, one Visor, both searching for the same invisible enemy. Neither knew yet that their paths were about to cross in a way that would change the galaxy forever. The halls of Solara Station held many secrets, but none as dangerous as the one creeping closer to Captain Alara Morgan. The day had started with the usual tensions, polite greetings, and guarded conversations. Yet beneath the surface, the quiet threat was growing, unseen but deadly. Alara moved through the vast corridors with a calm that few could match. Years of military training had taught her how to mask fear, how to stay alert when danger was near, but invisible. Her mind replayed the anonymous warnings she had received. They will not let you leave alive. And the video showing the red targeting circle over her seat in the conclave chamber. Someone wanted her dead. But who? And why now? The crowd in the Grand Spire Hall buzzed with voices and laughter as delegates mingled. Alara kept close to her. Aides and Marine Guard. Yet she felt eyes on her from all sides, a weight pressing down like invisible hands. Suddenly, the soft hum of the ceiling lights faltered. A brief flicker of darkness swept over the room. Then, from the crowd, a figure moved, fast, deliberate. Elara caught the movement out of the corner of her eye. Instinct pulled her back, but it was too late. A shimmering blade flashed in the dim light. The attacker lunged toward her. The world seemed to slow. The crowd gasped. Delegates screamed and dove for cover. Without thinking, a figure stepped between. Alara and the blade. It was Koresh. The Visor warrior's armored body tensed as the blade struck him in the shoulder, tearing through the silver-black plating. His deep golden eyes flared with pain and rage. With a swift movement, Koresh twisted, catching the attacker's wrist and slamming him against a crystal column. The blade dropped with a sharp clang. The attacker snarled, claws flashing, but Koresh was already moving. The crowd parted as Koresh dragged the man toward the security forces. The murmur of shock turned to whispered questions. Why had the feared Visor saved the human captain? Alara stared at Koresh, her breath shallow. "You saved my life." He didn't answer immediately. Instead, his gaze held hers, sharp and unreadable. "You should be more careful. I'm used to danger." He nodded slowly. Danger is always near when truth hides in the dark. Later, in a secure chamber far from the public eyes, Alara and Koresh met face to face for the first time, without the weight of the conclave watching. The room was simple but high-tech, glowing softly with blue light from the walls. Koresh removed his helmet, revealing a face both alien and strangely familiar. His skin was pale with subtle metallic tones, eyes bright and intense. His expression was serious, thoughtful. "I owe you an explanation," he began. "Not all of my people agree with the Council's decision to invite humans here. Some want you gone before you can speak." Ilara listened carefully. I know the risks, but I believe humanity belongs in this galaxy. We want peace. Koresh studied her. Peace is not given, it is won. And many will fight to keep you from winning. The silence between them stretched. Then Ilara spoke. If we are to survive this, we need allies. Even if they are from old enemies. Koresh's eyes narrowed, then softened slightly. Perhaps this is the start of something new. The two began to share what they knew. Fragments of intelligence, whispers of plots, names that could not be trusted. Koresh explained how deep factions in the Conclave worked against them, moving pieces to sabotage the treaty. Ilara revealed the strange messages she had received. The anonymous threats. Together, they pieced together a dangerous puzzle. The attacker who tried to kill Ilara was a hired assassin, a shadow agent linked to a secretive group opposing any change in power. More than that, the station's core security systems had been tampered with. If the conspirators succeeded, the entire conclave might be destroyed in a single explosion. Outside the secure chamber, shadows moved. Unknown watchers listened through hidden sensors. The conspiracy was larger than either Ilara or Koresh had imagined. But for the first time, two very different beings stood united. The following day, the conclave resumed. The air was thick with tension. Delegates whispered behind closed doors. The shadow of the assassination attempt lingered. Ilara's presence had become a symbol, not just of humanity's arrival, but of resistance to the hidden forces threatening peace. Koresh stayed near, a silent protector. The Visor warrior was a reminder to many that the old ways might be changing. In a quiet moment, Koresh and Ilara walked the halls together. Their conversation was low, careful. You trust me? Koresh said simply. Ilara nodded. I have no choice. He smiled faintly, a rare sight. Good, because the coming days will test us both. She looked at him, the weight of what lay ahead heavy on her. Then we face it together. Unknown to them, the conspirators plotted their next move. The device in the station's core, waiting silently, was ready to activate. The galaxy's future hung on a knife's edge. Solara Station hummed quietly, but beneath its shining surface, danger stirred like a hidden storm. Captain Ilara Morgan and Koresh, the Visor warrior, moved quickly through the labyrinth of corridors. Their footsteps echoed softly against the cold metal walls as they made their way toward the heart of the station, the core where the great power systems ran. The message was clear. A deadly device had been planted. It could destroy the entire conclave, wiping out thousands of alien delegates and humans alike. Time was running out. Ilara held her datapad tightly, scanning the encrypted files they had just retrieved from a hidden terminal. The information was complex, filled with alien codes and security protocols. But the meaning was simple: sabotage. We have less than 12 hours before this device triggers, she said, her voice steady but urgent. Koresh nodded. The saboteurs want to end the treaty before it begins. Ilara looked at him. We have to find it before it's too late. The corridors twisted and turned, sometimes narrowing into tight passageways, sometimes opening into vast chambers filled with glowing machinery. Koresh led the way, his armored footsteps sure and quiet. Despite the cold metal beneath their boots, the heat of urgency pressed on them like a heavy cloak. Who do you think is behind this? Ilara asked. Koresh's eyes narrowed behind his mask. A faction of old powers who fear the humans' rise. They will do anything to keep control. Ilara swallowed hard. Then we are not just racing against time, but against a deeply hidden enemy. They reached a secured door, marked with symbols of the conclave's inner security. The lock was complex, only high-ranking officials could open it. Koresh placed his armored hand on the panel. I have clearance. Stand back. With a low hiss, the door slid open, revealing a large chamber glowing with blue light. Inside, the station's core systems pulsed rhythmically. Like the heartbeat of a giant machine, Alara's eyes scanned the area, noting the intricate web of wires and power conduits. Suddenly, Koresh stopped. Look there. A small device, no bigger than a human fist, was attached to one of the main conduits. Its surface flickered with tiny red lights. A countdown. Alara's heart pounded. That's it. The bomb. Koresh crouched and examined it carefully. It's wired into the station's power grid. Any wrong move could trigger it. The tension was unbearable. Alara felt the weight of every second slipping away. She reached for her comlink. Security teams need to be on standby. We can't risk this device going off. Koresh's voice was calm but firm. No alarms. The saboteurs will know if they hear anything unusual. We must disarm it quietly. Alara nodded. Agreed. Working together, they carefully began to cut wires and analyze the device. It was unlike any explosive Alara had seen before, a mix of alien technology and deadly precision. Koresh's fingers moved quickly and skillfully, his knowledge of alien machinery proving invaluable. Suddenly, the device beeped faster. Alara's breath caught. What now? Koresh frowned. They've put a secondary timer. We need to finish quickly. Outside the chamber, footsteps approached. Shadowy figures moved in the dim corridor. Saboteurs, Koresh whispered. They found us. Ilara's hand went to her sidearm. We can't let them reach the core. The door hissed open, and two figures stepped inside. Cloaked, masked, their eyes burning with hatred. Koresh rose, blocking Alara's path. You will not succeed. One of the attackers lunged with a blade. Koresh parried and struck back with his armored fist, sending the assailant crashing to the floor. Alara fired a warning shot, and the second attacker froze. We have to finish, she said urgently, turning back to the device. Koresh grabbed the downed attacker's wrist, twisting it behind him. You will tell us who sent you. The attacker spat but said nothing. Alara returned to the device, her hand steady despite the danger. Minutes felt like hours as she worked. Then, with a soft click, the device's lights went dark. Koresh exhaled slowly. It's disarmed. Alara smiled faintly. For now. But their victory was short-lived. Alarms suddenly blared through the station. The saboteurs' plan was larger than a single device. Alara grabbed her comlink. All units, lock down the core area. Possible additional threats detected. Koresh's eyes flashed. The real attack is coming. They hurried from the chamber, ready for whatever awaited. The race against time had only just begun. The great hall of Sailora Station was filled with thousands of eyes, some curious, some hostile, and some carefully hiding suspicion. Every delegate of the Conclave was present, gathered for the signing of the historic treaty that could change the galaxy forever. Captain Alara Morgan stood at the center of the stage. The weight of 1,000 gazes bore down on her, yet she held her head high, her voice steady. Today we stand at a new beginning, Alara began, her words clear and strong in the vast chamber. A future where all species, from the smallest to the mightiest, can come together in peace. Humanity seeks not to dominate, but to join in cooperation. Her words rippled through the crowd. Some nodded, some whispered, and others leaned back, skeptical. But no one interrupted. Across the hall, Koresh, the Visor warrior, stood by her side, a silent sentinel. His eyes, dark and glowing, tracked every movement, every flicker of expression among the delegates. Suddenly, a sharp voice broke the fragile calm. Lies! The cry came from the shadows. A tall figure stepped forward, an emissary from the Thalri Dominion, known for their fierce opposition to human expansion. Humans bring war, not peace. We have seen their kind on the edges of the stars plundering, fighting, destroying. Why should we trust them now? The hall erupted in murmurs and shouts. Some called for order. Others shouted accusations. Alara's calm did not falter. "We are not perfect," she said honestly, "but we have changed. The war you speak of was fought to protect our people, not to conquer. Today, we ask for a chance to prove ourselves." The tension in the hall thickened, but then something unexpected happened. Koresh stepped forward, his voice deep and commanding. "Your accusations ignore the courage and honor shown by the humans here today," he said, his gaze sweeping the crowd. "I have witnessed their strength, not only in battle but in their will to stand against those who would threaten peace." Gasps filled the hall. The Visor were known for their unwavering loyalty to tradition, for one of their own to support. Humans was unheard of. The murmurs turned to whispers of surprise and disbelief. Ilara seized the moment. "We stand not just as humans, but as allies to those who seek peace," she declared. "Together, we can face the threats that lurk in the dark corners of this galaxy, threats that aim to undo this treaty and ignite war once more." At that moment, the chamber lights flickered. A low hum grew in the air, barely audible but unmistakable. Ilara's eyes darted to Koresh. "The sabotage is beginning," he whispered. Outside the great hall, security forces rushed to secure the station. Alarms blared as hidden explosives were discovered in docking bays and transport hubs. The conspirators were striking fast and hard. Inside, the delegates looked to each other with fear and confusion. Ilara and Koresh exchanged a quick glance before moving toward the control consoles. Together, they coordinated efforts to contain the damage and protect the remaining delegates. The conspirators had expected chaos to tear the Conclave apart, but Ilara's presence united many factions against the threat. Meanwhile, in the darkened corridors, the leader of the conspiracy, known only as the Shadow Broker, watched the chaos unfold through multiple screens. "They rally too quickly," the broker hissed. "But this is only the beginning." With a flick of a wrist, a new order was sent out. "Activate the final phase." Back in the Great Hall, Ilara's voice rose over the alarms. "We will not let fear divide us. This treaty is our shield against the darkness." The crowd's fear began to shift into determination. Koresh stood beside her, a living symbol that old rivalries could be overcome. The delegates raised their voices in agreement, chanting for peace and unity. Minutes later, the final threat emerged, a powerful energy blast aimed at the station's power core. Ilara and Koresh raced to intercept it. Their combined efforts and quick thinking managed to redirect the blast, saving the station from destruction. The crowd erupted in cheers. Ilara looked at Koresh, her heart pounding. "We did it," Koresh nodded. "Together." In that moment, humans were no longer seen as outsiders or threats. They had stepped into the spotlight, proving their place in the galaxy. The treaty was signed, and with it, a new era began. But in the shadows, the Shadow Broker smiled. The game was far from over. The sun rose slowly over Solara's station, its artificial dawn casting long shadows across the silver towers. Outside the vast windows of the Conclave's main hall, ships glided silently through the endless starfield. Inside, the atmosphere was heavy, the kind of quiet that settles after a storm. But before the next one, Captain Ilara Morgan stood at the edge of the chamber, watching the aftermath of the historic treaty signing. The room was filled with delegates, many tired, some still tense, but all aware that the galaxy's future had changed that day. Her mind was far from peaceful. Koresh stood nearby, his armored figure unmoving, as if carved from the very metal of the station itself. His eyes, glowing softly beneath his mask, reflected the quiet weight of recent events. "Is it really over?" Ilara asked quietly. Koresh's voice was low and steady. "For now. But the galaxy never forgets. And neither do the eyes that watch." Ilara looked at him curiously. "What do you mean?" Koresh took a slow breath. "We Visor remember every slight, every betrayal, every victory. Our eyes carry stories, stories that do not fade with time." Ilara thought of the conspiracy, the attack, the lives lost and saved. And now, the eyes of the galaxy are on us. Outside the station's main hall, the council chambers buzzed with activity. Delegates met in small groups, discussing the treaty and its implications. Some welcomed humanity warmly, eager to build new alliances. Others remained cautious, their faces masks of doubt dot in the quiet corners. Whispers of the shadow broker's failed plans still stirred. The conspiracy was crushed for now, but its roots ran deep. That evening, Alara and Koresh met in the observation deck, a quiet place with panoramic views of the stars. The stars twinkled silently, ancient and distant, but full of promise and danger. Koresh spoke first. The treaty is a beginning, not an end. Old enemies will not vanish overnight. They will test us. Alara nodded. Then we must be ready, together. Koresh's eyes softened slightly. You have changed many minds. Here, Alara, including mine. Alara smiled faintly. And you have shown me that even the oldest warriors can find new paths. They stood side by side, watching the galaxy turn. Days passed. News of the treaty spread across systems. Human ships, once ignored or attacked, were now invited to diplomatic missions and joint exercises. Alara led the first delegation to a newly formed Alliance Council. She felt the weight of responsibility, but also hope. Yet, in the shadows of distant systems, eyes still watched. On a remote asteroid station, the Shadow Broker met with a small group of loyal followers. The humans have won a battle, but not the war, the broker said, voice cold as ice. We will return, another whispered. Stronger and more prepared, the broker smiled thinly. Let them remember this day. Let their eyes carry the fear of what is to come. Back on Solaris Station, Alara received a message. It was simple, but clear. We remember. Her heart quickened. Koresh joined her as she read the message aloud. Eyes that remember, he said softly. And we will not forget either. The galaxy had changed, but the watchful eyes of history were always present, reminding all that peace was fragile and courage was the true light in the dark. Alara looked out at the stars and whispered, "This is just the beginning.